Are you desiring more out of life? More love, more connection, more experience, just more aliveness? Well, that is your soul calling you, and together we are going to uncover those soul desires and help you bridge the gap between your physical life and your true soul self. Welcome to the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. My name is Emilee. I'm an intuitive, a psychic medium, and someone who recently and very suddenly awakened to spirituality. On this podcast, we are going to talk all about connecting with your soul to live your fullest, most beautiful life. We're going to talk about spirituality from the perspective of the everyday person. It's my goal that you feel seen and supported on this journey of discovering your soul and awakening to the incredible world of spirit. Let's get started. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the very first episode of the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. How cool is this? My name is Emilee. I am your host, and I am super pumped that you are here, that you are ready to listen to all things spiritual as I ramble on and on about the magic of becoming suddenly spiritual, because that's what this podcast is all about. For this first episode, it's really more like a pre-episode, maybe. We're not going to dive into all of the magical topics I plan on sharing with you. Instead, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about me and why I'm here, why I'm chatting with you, so that we can kind of get to know each other before I dive into all of these amazing spiritual topics that we're going to cover through the podcast. So thank you for being here. Like I said, my name is Emilee, and the reason that I am here chatting with you, that I am so compelled to start this podcast, is that over the last couple years, I have gone through my own sudden spiritual awakening, and it was very unexpected. I was not on any kind of spiritual path. I was not looking for this. But as it happens, spirituality kind of just jumps into your life whenever it's supposed to. And so because of that sudden spiritual awakening, I went through a major transformation over the last couple years as I transitioned from being someone who didn't believe in the afterlife, who thought psychics and mediums were all fakes. I didn't believe in any of this stuff. I thought that it was all just scammy, weird stuff. And now I'm on the other side of that, and it turns out I was totally wrong. Spirituality came into my life and just flipped every belief that I have on its head. And it really changed me coming into this realization that the world is not what I thought it was. And going through a major transformation like that, changing your beliefs so drastically like that, I found it to be really confusing and lonely. And like, there were a lot of times where I was like, am I going freaking crazy? Like, nothing looked the way that I recognized it. Everything in my life just changed. My perception of the world completely changed. And that's a really confusing and lonely experience. And having gone through that experience, I didn't live a life where I had people around me that I could talk to about this. I never had a life where I could discuss spiritual aspects with people. That just wasn't anything that we talked about in my family, in my friendships, because it wasn't anything on my radar. It wasn't even a topic I was interested in. And so suddenly going through all of these changes and having this like deep spiritual connection, I really just desire deeply to have some guidance through that and to have someone to talk to have a friend, have some companionship. And so really, with this podcast, what I hope to do is provide you with some of that support and guidance and like a peer along the way of your awakening, because it can be confusing and lonely, and you might think, oh my God, I'm going crazy. And I'm here to tell you, you're not going crazy. The world really is completely different than what we've grown up to think. There's so much more out there than than I ever realized until I had all of these sudden miraculous changes happening in my life. And so I hope this podcast can be a support to you as you awaken to the spiritual world, as your view of the world expands. I hope that this can be a resource that you can lean on so that you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to feel weird. You don't have to feel crazy, but you can know that there are so many other people out there experiencing a sudden spiritual awakening completely out of the blue. I guess that's what sudden means, isn't it? But there are other people like you who are coming into this in such an unexpected way, and you don't have to be alone through this experience. So now that I've kind of alluded to my sudden awakening in my spiritual experience, I want to kind of chat with you about how this looked for me, because I know that it can be really useful when you are experiencing your own awakening to hear other people's stories about how they got into spirituality. I know that that's something that I have loved listening to, and it's helped me understand my own journey a little better. So maybe hearing my story will help you understand your journey a little better too, make you not feel so alone. I've spent so much time trying to think about how to tell the story of my sudden spiritual awakening because there's just so many aspects of it. It's like, when did this really start? Because it feels like my entire life has led up to this point, but I never realized it. I just didn't know what was coming. So I'm going to start where I feel like the most easy beginning is, but I'm in my 30s, and it was right in my early 30s that I started sensing that there was this big change coming. At that time, I was running an online business. I had a website. It was like a DIY blog that I turned into a business, and it was doing so good. I really focused on teaching women how to use power tools, and I had courses and workshops. I ran this huge summit where I had almost 1,000 women attend this online summit or register for this online summit. It was amazing. And yet I was having all of this success in this business that I had built, and I felt really passionate about it. I felt so connected to it, and still I also was feeling like really dissatisfied, and I just couldn't put a pinpoint on why I was so discontent. I just really wanted to love what I was doing, but that love had fallen away. And it was such a strange thing to experience because I couldn't pinpoint why I was feeling that way. It was just like this nagging, annoying, persistent feeling that I was meant for more. This feeling like there's got to be more out there. Like, what's the point? Like, I'm supposed to do big things. It was just, I was so uncomfortable, and I couldn't get content, but I also wasn't ready to admit that I was feeling those feelings. So I ignored that for as long as I could. And the longer I ignored it, the bigger the feeling got, until I was just so uncomfortable in my life that I was desperate to find anything to try and bring back that contentment. And so at that point, I had already been I've been taking all of these courses and getting all kinds of mentorship and things like that, trying to figure out what's wrong with my business, what's wrong with me? How come I'm not happy in this? And it just wasn't working. And so I had heard some people in my business groups, I'd heard them talking about intuition and how they made decisions from their intuition. And I thought, oh, I need to figure out this intuition thing, and then maybe I can make better decisions, and then I won't be so discontent, and then I'll be happy in this business again, and this naggy feeling will go away once I figure out how to use this intuition thing, is what I thought. And so I started researching intuition, and as I was doing it, somehow I came across a book by Sonia Choquette, and the book is called Ask Your Guides. And the crazy thing is, I didn't know what guides were when I picked up this book. However, the description of the book said that it was about intuition and like learning to trust yourself and all of that, and like listening to your inner guidance. And I was like, okay, that sounds like what I need. So I so I got that audiobook, and it changed everything for me. There was part of her book where she talks about connecting with your soul. And I remember this so vividly because at that moment when I read that, I was like, what the hell? I have a soul? A soul? I was like just in shock. I spent my whole life thinking I'm just like a body and a brain. And here was this book telling me I had a soul. Like, what is that? And once I heard that, I was listening to the audiobook. And once I heard that, I just instantly knew it was true. And it was like it unlocked this just waterfall that was my spiritual journey. After that moment of learning I had a soul, I started journaling every day, trying to get deeper into what this was, listening to podcasts on intuition, on manifestation, on soul purpose, audiobooks, learning about universal love, universal consciousness. I started meditating, just everything, like that concept of learning I had a soul. And in the book, she poses the question, what does your soul desire? And I don't know why, but that just blew my mind. I was like, it was this concept that it wasn't just my brain that had desires. Like, I didn't have to be practical all the time. It was like, what does my soul desire? And when I asked that question, my soul desired was not sitting for 8 hours in front of a computer while also trying to be a parent to my children. No, what my soul desired was going for a walk in nature, laying on the grass in the sunshine, like drinking coffee, watching my kids play. Like, what my soul desired was not the life that I had built. And it just rocked my world. I couldn't see the world the same again after having that realization. And from that point, I was doing all of this research all the time, and it hasn't stopped since then. As I began meditating after that, I started getting messages from spirit as I was meditating. I was sitting and trying to clear my mind, but instead this voice and these visions kept coming into my head, and it was insane and magical and nothing I had ever once in my life experienced. And it felt like being full to the brim of the most perfect, most pure love I have ever experienced. It would bring me to tears every time. These beautiful visions and journeys that Spirit was taking me on, and the feelings that I was being filled with of just love and support and compassion, it just unlocked something in me that I didn't even know was available. And as time went on, I kept meditating and having these visions. I started connecting with all these spirit guides. I found that a lot of time when I was journaling, my writing was actually channeling, and the messages that were coming out in my writing were just so beautiful and insightful. Like, I just knew they didn't come from me because I am not that insightful. This had to be from something bigger than myself, something more loving than myself. Like, it had to be from this universal love that had suddenly become so apparent to me. It was just such an amazing, fast-moving time. And at the same time, it was so confusing. And remember when I said I thought I was going crazy? These are the moments that I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, who am I talking to? Is this my imagination? Am I just making this up? What is happening? It was so wild. And those are the moments when I know if you are experiencing, those are the moments where you need some support and you need someone there to say, no, you're not crazy. The world really is pure freaking magic. And that love that you're feeling, that unexplainable love, it's really there. And it's really filling you up. The universe is supporting you. It's this feeling that I can't describe. So as this connection with Spirit grew and grew, this had been less than 9 months since I had the realization that I had a soul. And as these channeled messages and these meditations and visions became more strong, I became so curious if I could do these visions, receive these messages for other people, or if this connection was solely meant for me. And that curiosity propelled me to start doing readings for other people, sort of like as an experiment is how I viewed it, because it was so uncomfortable and strange and scary. So I just had to tell myself, well, I'm just being curious. This is just an experiment. We'll just see what happens. And what happened just shocked me to my core. I was able to receive these messages, these beautiful, insightful messages for other people from Spirit. And as I was connecting in, I was also able to see things about their lives. I was able to know things about them, things that were currently happening, things that were going to happen in the future, things that had happened in the past. It was wild. And even now, when I do these readings for other people, it completely blows my mind that this is even possible. It's just so beautiful, and it is such an honor to be able to have this connection. After that moment, like seriously, there was no turning back. Since that time, I have not been able to stop diving deeper into learning about Spirit, into learning about this connection and growing this connection. I've spent countless hours reading, meditating, learning, practicing, researching. I'm just constantly being in awe. And awe is my absolute favorite feeling. It's what I try to stay in most of the time, because if I can stay in the feeling of awe, of wonder, of curiosity, then I'm able to kind of take responsibility off of me and put my whole life in the hands of Spirit and just be able to follow this journey wherever I'm led. So that's my story, like the condensed version. There's all kinds of crazy things that happened in there. I didn't even mention, as I was coming into the spirituality and I starting to meditate and connect more with Spirit, at one point in the close to the beginning, I heard a voice that told me to sell my business. So that business that I talked about, the one that was successful, the one that I built from the ground up, I sold it. And I sold it without a plan, without knowing what was next or where I was going. But the voice came in that said, just sell your business. And once I heard that, it was the most relief I have ever felt. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. And then about 2 seconds later, I was like, who just said that? Oh my God, what is happening? And that's how the journey has been. Every time there's some sort of new spiritual experience, whether it's hearing guidance or seeing a vision or seeing a sign in real life, my response is always, oh my gosh, is this real? This is bananas. So that is the story of my sudden spiritual awakening. And I just want to say, I'm not done. All of those experiences I'm talking about, this started maybe 2 years ago. I would say I'm for sure still in the middle of my awakening. I am still discovering so much about this connection every single day. And I really want to emphasize that, because I want you to know that I haven't made it. I'm not like there as some enlightened person at the end. I am just a seeker on the path of spirituality. I am someone who is working through all of this magic and the confusion of trying to lead a spiritual life, of trying to change how I have lived my life up until this point into one that is more a spiritually led, spiritually connected life, because I have seen the magic. I have felt the love. I know at least a tiny tidbit of what is available when we surrender to Spirit and live a more connected life. And that is what I want. And I hope that by sharing my story and sharing this podcast, that I also inspire you to lead a more spiritually led life. And I feel like I should say right now, to me, a spiritual life is not a perfect life. A spiritual life is just a life where you are seeking that big, expansive perspective, where you are allowing love in and where you are letting yourself be a beacon of love to improve your life, improve the life of those around you, and just bring more love into the world. I think that's really what we're all here to do, to connect with each other, connect to spirit, and make everyone's life a little bit better or a whole lot better. That's cool too. So like I said, that's just a little bit about my story. I'm not going to be sharing this on like every episode. From here on out, we are going to dive deep into all of these fun spiritual topics over the next few episodes. I am going to be chatting with you about what exactly a spiritual awakening is. And then we're going to go over some other like beginner spiritual topics to really get you set up and help you to feel supported as you go through this awakening. Or if you are not considering that you are going through an awakening, then let's just say we're going to help to solve some of your spiritual curiosities. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for getting all the way to the end of this episode. I hope you feel like you know me a little better. I hope you feel like you know my intention for this podcast a little bit better. And I cannot wait to chat with you soon. Goodbye. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Suddenly Spiritual podcast. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of your journey of spiritual expansion. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would leave a review for me on Apple Podcasts. It's a quick, free, easy way for you to support this podcast, and it helps me reach more people who are looking for support on their spiritual journey. You can find a link to leave a review in the show notes. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you soon.